Okay, and the that's how it came to came to be an iconic image and used to affect in the various environmental movements.
But
Uh,
the original one was distributed in Central Park and
mhm.
effectively led to the founding of Earth Day.
Yep, there is a little bit of a history of the same is in the link. I just as it that I just posted in the chat. But the idea is that um, I think that it's important that we find I, iconic images that register with people and open a discussion, if you will, as opposed to necessarily serving up a preconceived notion.
Well, is there could we send a message to Susan Jewell and to Hank Rogers to see if they're joining us? And
Yes, I will. Try to get them on WhatsApp.
and also Madhu.
Yeah, maybe Madhu. I don't have him on WhatsApp. However, let me check. Susan.
Jim, could you send an email to Madhu? You have his email, I think, in one of the messages we sent out.
Just that I will copy the invite link. Hi, Susan. Okay, then who else? Madhu.
I'm just sending him an email.
Okay. Good. I don't have him on WhatsApp. Okay, Susan is here.
Oh, good.
Hello, Susan.
She's on mute.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Adriano.
Hi.
Sorry for being late.
Never mind. Okay, so we should wait for Madhu and
we won't have Bernard because he's in Asia. And
Barnhard, I don't know where he is.
he's in Singapore or someplace in Asia for judging some sort of contest.
I sent Madhu a message with the meeting ID and passcode. So.
Okay, Hank Rogers, I have him on WhatsApp. So let's see if he can join. And I also will look for Barnhard.
Well, because of the time differences, I think it's probably very early in the morning for him.
Yeah. Okay. So I have messaged Henk and Bernard now. Who else?
Well, I think we should go ahead and start. To me, the key issue is what are we going to do and when are we going to do it? And after the discussion we had the last time around, there was the thought of having a Zoom-based event in let's say November to really start focusing on issues and perhaps having some I propose very high level presentations of people like Rusty Swikert and maybe let's see, I have another other people of also maybe Greg Marinac, who worked with Gerald.
Yeah, Greg Marinac, I forgot to add it to the list.
Well, I'm going to add Greg. I've got his telephone number as well as.
I have a good relationship with
Well, I've known Greg since we started the International Space University 35 years ago. So
okay, Madhu is here.
Great.
Madhu Tangavelu. Yeah.
But anyway, possibly
I put
Jeff Hoffman, who installed the Hubble telescope and repairs and so on. People like that with some vision. But in particular, I would like to see if we could get Jim Green, who was chief scientist of NASA, who basically, I've worked with him with the idea of doing a space shield for Mars so that the solar wind is blocked by electromagnetic force, so that essentially we create a breathable atmosphere and oceans on the Martian surface, so that maybe there's a breathable atmosphere over a period of 50 years or something like that. And, he's done work when he was at NASA with several of the federal labs to actually do some very serious look at how you could do this. That one could also consider doing this for Earth to protect it from solar flares and dangerous solar storms that could take out electrical power systems. But their latest image and idea is to use Phobos and Deimos as the basis to create the electromagnetic shield for Mars. So this is some, if you will, pretty far out there, but really interesting, fascinating presentations that Jim Green might be able to make. But anyway, back to the schedule of trying to do something in November and to try to build up a list of 60 to maybe 80 names of people that we can invite, and actually encourage some of those people who join to recruit other people, so that we have a very good number of people at the first stage.
Sorry, Joe.
Right. Okay, go ahead.
Could we start from the beginning?
Right.
I proposed an agenda. I take it from your proposal.
Right.
Added a few things. It is in the chat, and in my opinion, we should maybe make a first round of ideas. What are the requirements and the scope and the expected outcomes of this conference?
Well,
what do we want to get?
But the point is, I think we should form a steering group of all the various organizations that would be sponsoring this event, of ACES and SRI, but also the Moon Village Association and maybe Henk Rogers Group and Susan Jewell's group and maybe others. And that steering committee would be the basis to work out what we're trying to do and trying to accomplish, but that to have this first session in November to be kind of an excitement of what could be done and how to do it, and by really outstanding people, and then to follow that with another session and say March of 2025. And my latest thought is maybe this could be a combined in-person event at the East-West Center in Hawaii with people attending, but also a Zoom-based event with a larger number of people, and then build to an actual conference in Hawaii for a big scale conference that could be maybe toward the end of 2024 or some date that we choose. But I think the key is to form a working group of people who are very much involved, and then at least one representative from each of the sponsoring groups to decide what is it we're trying to do, what is the schedule, who are the participants, what's the program, but that for the Zoom sessions, I think that they should be content heavy. In other words, really interesting speakers presenting really interesting ideas and building from a initial session in November to a larger session that would be a hybrid in-person and Zoom-based event in early 2024, and then a really big conference in Hawaii later that year or 2020. Anyway, that's my proposal based on all the input I've got. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention, I did discuss this with the East-West Center in detail, and they said, yeah, it will be okay to do this, and we just need to coordinate with them what would be the best time to work this out. But they said definitely, yeah, they would support this. But
to be clear, they're not only would be able to provide us a conference hall and a Zoom connectivity, but I gather they could also offer us housing for people. There would be a cost, but that they could provide housing at least for people who wanted to stay there. Is that correct?
Yeah, and
what are we talking about?
We would coordinate this with the East-West Center, and yeah, it should
Let me.
work.
Sorry.
We aren't deciding anything yet, Henk. We will hear about your idea for the Big Island as well, but that's just data.
No. I've East-West Center. I've got experience with the East-West Center. I've done 2 events at the East-West Center, and the event space is wonderful, but the accommodations are crap.
Right. So
I mean, accommodations for people to stay.
Right. And Jim and I have both been there, so we know. So the idea, this would be an option that we would think a lot of people would not necessarily stay there, but it would be an option for people on a budget or who were wanting to not expend huge amounts of money. But I think less than half the people would stay there. I would stay with friends, for instance, if I were to go.
Okay.
Anyway, let's go on to is the idea of the 3-step process.
Yeah. So let me understand.
And the steering committee.
Your main goal is to create a steering committee. I understand.
Well, to plan out what we're going to do.
Outcome of this initiative.
Right. And including the idea
you're thinking about a stable steering committee.
Yes. And basically of all the organizations who were, quote, sponsoring this, plus other key people who we feel would like to be heavily involved in making this a success. Maybe 10 to 12 people.
Well, okay. I think that the main goal of this workshop. Let me talk about the workshop, because I think this should be our goal, our focus. The workshop. We were started to talk about the workshop it would be to have a large resonance to attract the media, the generalist media, and to make people to talk about living in space, about the urgency to initiate civilian space development, and the urgency to start simulating, to start working with simulated gravity, to start working on protection of life and health in space. So these are in my opinion, my goals, my requirements for this kind of workshop is to let people understand, I mean, outside the space community, because if we make something for the space community, it's another thing. Right. There are so many. There is the ISDC, there is the IAC. There are so many things made for the space community. But if it is worth to put resources, and I'm thinking about energies even more than money, that is to try to reach a bigger goal.
I agree with that, and I think our output
make people, normal people, to talk about the urgency of
and outputs might be a book written for a general audience. Maybe try to get some very big name to be associated with it. Some of the people I mentioned earlier.
Or you.
A video that could be done, and try to get news media involved. So I think all of those should be a part of the thought process of how do we get this message to planet Earth.
I also put there another crazy idea. If we have to make many events, then we can think about a tour that can start away, but could make the next event in Singapore, and the next one in I don't know, another city.
Right. Well, the steering.
America, one in Latin America, one in Canada, one in. So we can make one event per year. Then I think it could be interesting to make let me say a program, a multi-event program.
Right. And a steering committee would need to decide those things, but I think all of those things are possible.
So this was also an idea that we were playing with this idea since some years, to make a tour, a space tour. Like, I don't know if you remember, Al Gore made his tour some years ago about his so-called inconvenient truth.
Right. And
he was making conference in several cities in the world.
Right.
So I was playing with this kind of concept to making several big conferences.
Right. And when I say a video, we might also try to at some point try to get even a movie that unfortunately most of my contacts with Stanley Kubrick have now died, but it would be great to get someone like a Stanley Kubrick to do a movie about some of the things that might come out, like the earlier thing I was talking about, Jim.
Yeah. So if
shield around Mars to make it.
If we will be able to involve some celebrities, some actors, some movie directors, and some musicians, then it will make sense.
Right.
Because that will be the link to start talking to the people at large.
Right.
To have some celebrities with us.
But I do think we have
to be worth.
Get a steering committee and build this, build momentum and a number of people involved. But I do think there are a number of people out there who do have contacts in Hollywood. My brother was actually an art director and worked with Spielberg for a number of years, but he's not the right person, but he may know some of the right people. But,
yeah, we can also try to contact what is his name, Roger Waters, who built the campaign for the pay for some years ago. We are the world, we are the people. You remember, because
Right.
they raised money for the children of the world and so on. I'm thinking about this kind of campaign, and for sure, I think some of those artists that are socially involved in social activities, they may be receptive to our proposal. But
I think we should let Jerry Stone and some of the other people.
yes, Jerry, please.
Jerry's been raising his hand for some time, so
Yes,
Jerry,
of course.
go ahead.
Yes, Jerry.
Thanks. I now have two items. But firstly, the recent one. I know Jan Harlan, who was Stanley Kubrick's brother-in-law, and was the he worked on about half of his films, including the Shining and others. He lives fairly close to me in St. Albans, which is also near Kubrick's family. And my son, who's involved in filmmaking, he teaches a master's course at the University of Hertfordshire. He knows the family very well indeed. So there's a possible contact.
Right. The point is we have to build till we really have something pretty sexy and interesting to present. But I think that would be a great thing to pursue.
Yeah. Okay.
But you had 2 points, so
yes.
Point.
The other one is potential. You mentioned November, and hang on, let me just.
I'm saying around like November 15th, which is a Friday. So.
Okay, let me just check that. So in November, right, beginning of November, the first weekend, well, second actually, I'm involved in organizing the 50th anniversary convention for the Federation of Astronomical Societies. The 11th, 12th, and 13th, which is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the British Interplanetary Society has their Reinventing Space event in London this year, which also includes on the Tuesday evening this year's Sir Arthur Clarke Awards, which are effectively recognized as the Space Arthurs.
Right.
Then Tuesday the 19th and the 20th and 21st is the Space Tech Expo in Bremen.
And then there's Thanksgiving. So I think we have to go back. What about like the 8th or 9th of?
No, I wouldn't be able to do that because that's the FAS convention that weekend.
How about like very early December?
Well, there's the first weekend, 2nd and 3rd. There's no major space activities going on then that I'm aware of.
Well, that might be a good, at least tentative date.
Yeah. The following, the Saturday at the end, the 30th, there's an event at the University of Greenwich.
Right. But I would say, let's say 2nd or 3rd. We're talking about a one-day event for this Zoom event. So
perhaps Saturday the 2nd.
Well, okay. Yes. So Tom, yes, you're overdue.
Okay, Dinis just joined. Dinis, you will find the agenda in the chat. So If you scroll a little bit up, you will find it.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Dinis.
Hello, hi, good evening, everyone. Sorry, I was at work, but now I'm free. Hello, everyone. What have you guys been discussing already?
Well, what we were discussing is a 3-step process,
Mhm.
starting with creating a steering committee of people who want to be heavily involved and representatives from each of the sponsoring groups, such as SRI, ACES Worldwide, Henk Rogers group, Susan Jewell's Mars group, and the Moon Village Association, of which Madhu is our liaison right now. And then in December have a Zoom-based conference. And we're thinking about trying to get some very high-level people. Jim Green, who used to be the chief scientist of NASA, talking about building space shields that could create a breathable atmosphere on Mars, to Rusty Swikert, the Apollo 9 astronaut, who was also very much involved with the B612 Foundation, and Jeff Hoffman, who installed the fix to the update of the Hubble telescope when he was an astronaut. Jeff, Greg Marinak, who worked with Gerald O'Neill's thing. People like that who could really capture imagination, and actually some press following to what we're doing. And that would be a Zoom-based event, followed by something in, let's say, March, that would be a hybrid event. As many people as possible get to Hawaii, and
I read about that one. Yes.
And then I have a full-scale conference to build that would be later in 2025, or maybe even early 2026. But the whole purpose of this is to build toward a process to capture the press attention, to make a movie or at least a video, but a book written by a popular author that sort of captures the enthusiasm and so on. So that's kind of the general thought process. And we haven't yet heard from Madhu or Tom Madula, or from Henk or Susan. So I think we should try to ask each one of them to contribute their thoughts.
Joe, this is Madhu, and I'm following the discussion. And I want to bring up that I've been busy with our school syllabus, as I mentioned to you. Right. But I have a list of addresses, about 150 people, who are all what I would term usual suspects in the endeavor that you are about. And I will distill this to maybe 20 folks and send it to you.
Well, don't distill it that much. I'd say 40 names.
40?
Yeah, 40.
Okay, all right, good. And I think all of you, or at least most of you, are tuned into Adriano's SRI, the forum, and some very interesting things are happening there. And I would recommend that we also focus on what Adriano mentioned, is what could we do to make the UN look good in this endeavor, Joe? And I would also think something that we could do to really boost the giants in the room. NASA is not the giant in the room anymore, as all of you are aware. China is doing things like real engineers do, and India is following in their footsteps. And the funny part is that both China and India are using the U.S. footprint, the U.S. The technique to get everybody on board. So those are my points we'd like to drive into this conference.
Right. Well, let's go back to capture them, because I think it's clear that we are talking about planet Earth here, and that we don't want this to be a U.S. show or activity. We do want international participation and so on. And that one of the reasons for Hawaii was that we thought we could get participation from Asia more easily that way. Part of the thought process. But just to be clear, we are talking about inviting participation from not just U.S. people. I mentioned U.S. speakers, but we certainly would want to have high-level speakers from the other parts of the world as well.
I fully agree, Joe. And Henk Rogers, I'm so glad he's on this talk right now. And Henk has the framework already set up, because we all got together for a wonderful meeting in the Big Island a couple of years ago. And Henk will have a lot of interesting things to tell you about how to organize an event in the Big Island, at least, because I know you mentioned that the accommodation is a little bit difficult in the East-West Center.
Yes, that was not to be the only option, that most people would stay in hotels or with friends or what have you, but there may be some people who would like to have that option, and that's just a part of the package that could be arranged. So just
okay.
If I might, I would like to double check whether this topic has already been addressed. I don't think so. What about the International Space Station? All the discussions about what's going to happen in 2030. Myself, besides my work, I've been focusing on a document that I'm working on, which is a roadmap for the Portuguese participation on scientific exploration and industrial development of the moon, which is my focus as of now. However, there have been various exploratory discussions about what's going to happen with the ISS, and someone that already spoke once here at Space Renaissance, Tomlinson, he now has saved the ISS effort. And myself, I've carefully read the NASA document about the demise of the ISS, and in there, really, when you really read between the lines, there's just trying to make sure that it doesn't go out of control one day, and there's if the Russians pull out, there's a way to deal with it in the end. And so there's interesting technical issues on that PDF, but from beyond that, it's clear that Japan and the European Union, the European Space Agency, Canada, they have a word to say about what's going to happen. And myself, I'm engaged on some efforts along those lines. Some of the stuff is proprietary, so I'm not really able to really go into all the as far as I wish. Nevertheless, I think in terms of getting visibility and addressing the international angle, the International Space Station, which will have a visit from someone from India sometime in the future, might be one way to focus the international attention on the circular economy, repurposing might be fruitful, perhaps.
That's an important point to note. I would just mention before we go to other people, there's also the issue of the gateway, which will be a part of the logistical supply chain for the lunar operations and what have you, and that will be a part of the discussion as well, which is in theory be the only NASA space station if they deorbit this ISS. But let's go on and hear from Tom Matula and also from Henk.
Yeah, these sounds like good plans. Again, the real focus has to be on how space settlements are going to benefit the Earth. How the technologies from space settlements will make the Earth more inhabitable. That'll make the Earth more sustainable.
Does everybody know Arthur Clarke's 3001?
Yeah.
That's the novel where Earth has become a park and everybody lives in space on this.
Yeah. And Asimov also did a 1982 short story called The Last Shuttle, which is about the last spacecraft leaving Earth with humans, and the Earth is left without people. So, a couple good stories on that team. But the idea is we have to show it's not going to so much be resources from space, which everyone's trying to fight over the wealth, but it's going to be the technology from space that's going to make the difference.
Along those lines, in Austria, there was a conference that Europe is ready for the moon. And there was this German philosopher that brought up an interesting aspect. He said perhaps it would be productive to change the narrative from a narrative of escaping the planet to a more like just a migration, a natural migration. He worded it in such a way that it was really a different way to look at things. Because currently the whole idea of having space settlements, just in case there's some kind of horrible thing that happens on Earth, it was felt by that German philosopher that spoke at that event as perhaps not the. It will motivate some people, but for the large crowds, that's sort of a dark way of addressing this. Not everyone will resonate with that, perhaps. Anyhow, sorry, but please go on. I think someone else, Jerry, you want to?
Hank or Gary, do you want to add thoughts to the basic idea is forming a steering committee and having this three-step building process with the intent to not only shed light and knowledge on this subject, but also to through books, videos, and hopefully even a movie to get planet Earth plugged into the future of what can be and why it's important.
Yeah, I think we need to figure out a way of getting young people to be interested. I look at my screen here, and we're all we're all gray hairs. If we have hair, we're kind of gray hairs.
Space cowboy. We are all space cowboy.
Susan has gone away because she has been the only one who could be considered a younger generation.
So young folks learn by social media. Yeah, if I could say so, young folks learn by social media, and they learn by doing video games. That's why I keep pushing for the idea of creating a realistic space settlement simulation that they could play as an online game. That's what they learn by. They don't read books anymore. They don't watch movies that much anymore. They live in a completely different world.
Yes,
they do. So what I'm saying is that if we're going to form some kind of an organizing committee, we need to have some young people who know how to reach young people and who understand what young people do and think.
We should enlist your son.
Yeah, sons. So
Well, it was the son who helped us with the other conference I'm thinking about. So, but,
I love leaning on the Kubrick history and the Arthur C. Clarke history because they're giants in the history of our movement. I still think 2001 is the best space movie ever made. But I mean, that's I tried showing it to young people a couple of months ago, and it was just too slow for them.
right.
They couldn't handle it. It was like, when is
It was
something
30 minutes in before there was any dialogue.
Well, there was that, and everything that happens in slow motion,
Right.
And so, but I mean, it accurately describes the loneliness of space.
Right.
But young people just are used to Star Wars or Star Trek, and
even younger people, a lot of them prefer Interstellar versus 2000. It's a different time zone or a different generation for sure. They resonate more with Nolan's music and things along those lines. There's different.
Anyway, what I'm saying is get young people on board to figure this out, or we're just like talking ourselves into our graves, and everything that we do will be lost.
Well, we should capture the idea of developing, computer-based games and what have you to capture some of the message we're trying to achieve. That should be an important part.
And let me say about this. First of all, to get somebody to play a computer game is really, really hard. You spend millions of dollars, and then you're not guaranteed that you're going to have an audience. Right. So I mean, you can spend millions of dollars and have something go flat. Now, if you make the purpose of the game educational, that's like adding a radioactive element into a game.
Right.
No kid wants to play a game where he has to learn something or where he understands that he is learning something. But there are games out there already, space games that we can ally with. We can give them our blessing or something. So we just need to find young people who are already in this world and ask them, so where are the space games that are interesting? And we should ally. Just like we've somehow allied with Star Trek and Star Wars. It's not a problem. We should ally with these things. We don't have to make one ourselves. I can tell you that making a computer game is really hard.
Right.
And all of us put all of our hats on, and all of the money that we have isn't going to make it. It's just not, it's a different world.
Along those lines, if I might, sorry to interrupt, but along those lines, what about younger people want to do? They want to live in space, and they already live in space because there's a blossoming of these astronaut missions. The analogs, it's everywhere, and people say, "Hey, look, don't talk to me. I'm not on Earth. What are you talking to me? Look, you got to go." So it's worldwide, everywhere, and perhaps that would be like if we were able to connect every single analog effort, because some analogs don't talk with other analogs. They have nuances. There's differences. There's these guys in China. They have an underwater analog on a cave. There's all kinds of the variety, the biodiversity of these analogs is they're not all the same. Perhaps that would be something to focus on, even on the Portuguese Space Agency catalog. Now we have a list of analog sites in Portugal. Okay, so maybe that would be something more that can be grasped more easily.
So I'm part of it.
One thought I just wanted to capture for the minutes of that. I'm trying to remember the guy who had Armadillo Space project, but he made millions with his games Doom and several other things. We should try to get him involved in this activity.
Richard Garriott.
Don Carmack, he's in Dallas.
I'm good friends with Richard Garriott.
Mm-hmm.
He lives in New York. I'm friends with him. But getting back to the analog, I have an analog, and there is a movement right now all of the analogs are all going to go on a mission at the same time a couple of years from now. And some of them are going to be Moon and some of them are going to be Mars. And they're going to be able, the Mars ones are going to be able to talk to each other in relative real time, but the rest of the world is 20 minutes each way. So
Excellent.
that is something that we're in the planning phases now.
Good.
Well,
I'm having a little bit of problem in Hawaii with permitting at the moment because some new woman is in charge of the Department of Land and Natural Resources and somehow thinks that I'm just some rich guy doing some crazy thing and she's out to get me, and I'm trying to talk reason to her.
Right.
So
well, Jim has briefed me on this, so I commiserate. Anyway, we need to try to make sure we are reaching some sort of consensus of creating a steering committee. The ultimate goal is to not only explore all these topics, but to try to get the world press and movies and video games and what have you, get the message out to a much broader audience, and that we'll try to build first for this event that it sounds like we're going to do on December 2nd or 3rd, that would be a Zoom-based event, and that we would then try to have a hybrid event in Hawaii and via Zoom in March, and then try to plan a full-scale conference then. And then, as Adriano has suggested, that we could then go on and maybe do this in other locations and so on. But that's the kind of the 1, 2, 3, 4 step process that we're talking about doing, and that in terms of next immediate steps, we need to get names of people and also ideas of key named speakers who could participate in the December 2nd event, and to get actual commitments by organizations to be sponsors of this event going forward, and nail down who, other than the people on this call today, would represent organizations, and go through a formal approval process. Madhu, are you still there?
Yes, Joe, and I'm listening in, and this is a very interesting discussion. Please go on.
But the idea is whether we could try to talk to John Mankins and other people to see if indeed Moon Village Association could become a former.
Well, we have Gary here.
So I'm the vice
Gary
president
Gary is
of the Moon Village Association.
That's right.
And I already brought this up to the last board meeting a few days ago. There's clear interest, but I personally, and in my various capacities of both, Moon Village Association and as the Director of Strategic Relationships for the National Space Society, and the President of the Space Development Foundation, I think that some clear guidance is required here. If what we're talking about is trying to foster the development of a sustainable habitation consortium, okay, which addresses both space and its relevant feedback to Earth, and in those cycles there, we need to be able to say that the tools of what media outlets we use and how we provide for engagement, we of course need to define and orchestrate, and there's much discussion to be had there. But what we're looking at is, are we after the folks that are interested in this from a vicarious standpoint, which would be one community of engagement? Are we interested in folks that are interested in learning a lot more and being advocates and supporting such things, which would be a second level of engagement or the third level of engagement of folks that want to go make this stuff happen and be a part of it.
Well,
There's the opportunities there, but it starts off with, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to build a sustainable habitation consortium?
Well, we are trying to focus on living in space, living in outer space. This is the topic of the workshop that we were thinking about, and I think it is a large enough term, because we can put together many other things. We can put the resources, we can put the space tourism, we can put several other things. But I suggest that we keep in mind our list of elements, topics to be covered, and maybe add a few more topics, but try to make, because I think that the topic of the general theme of living in space will be maybe attractive enough for the people, because our goal is to talk to the normal people. So we and to bring around in the world this novel about living in space that can be intended in several words, in several ways, as an expansion into space. The civilization expansion into space is my concept is this. But for instance, our friend Frank White, that I had to invite him today, but too many things in my head. He talk about large scale migration. That's another interesting concept, migration, even if it is a little bit dangerous, because people can think about, can understand that we want to abandon Earth and migrate somewhere else. So there is a discussion between me and Frank about that. Right. I like more to talk about expansion, because expansions mean that the center focus remain Earth, and even in the concept of Jeff Bezos, that we don't have another planet like Earth so far, therefore we have to take care of Earth, and just because we have to take care of Earth, we have to expand. So this is also Frank White. So
I would also just like to add that
an action of love toward Earth to expand.
I would just like to respond to Gary that I think we are interested in all those groups of people, but most importantly, I think we are trying to do something in terms of the press and the media to try to get a picture of what the future holds to a much broader audience. So
you're advocating that this is a mind share play, where what we want to go off and do is introduce the idea that living in space is not just about surviving, it's about thriving, and it's the extension.
Evolving.
It's the next step for humanity.
Right. Yeah. And that is a perfectly valid play in those regards. Right. My challenge to this group, though, is to recognize that you want to take advantage of the synergy of folks not just being interested in this vicariously, but folks that want to be a part of helping to build the future as advocates in channeling their interests, and those that want to help build stuff. Okay, and be a part of it. That's what's going to cross the generational divides, and bring in a much younger crowd, folks, as well as the disparate organizations recognizing that they can see a piece of how they fit into the broader puzzle. And see value in it.
I think we need to kind of recap what we've done and what next steps to take. That it seems to me. Go ahead, Jerry.
Okay. Firstly, one other fairly new thing. We were talking about computer games. September the 20th this year will be the 40th anniversary of Elite, which some of you may know of. I still play it. It's a terrific game. But anyway, Obviously, with my involvement with the work I'm doing on Island Zero, which is about artificial rotation, I obviously want to be involved in this event.
You were on my list.
The other thing is you
Gary, but you're on my list of people that I think could be on that that presentation for the December 2nd on Island Zero.
Okay, and we've mentioned the possibility of a book. I would recommend this one, Tom Arata and Al Globus, The High Frontier, An Easier Way, which specifically proposes or supports the idea of equatorial low Earth orbit, which not only has much lower gravity, much lower radiation, but also you avoid the South Atlantic anomaly.
Right.
It's
I just finished a book on Gateway, and that radiation issue is really a difficult one. The good thing about Gateway, it's going to be highly automated, and astronauts do not have to be there all the time. But Tom, you had your hand up. Tom, are you still there?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this was going back a while, but someone was mentioning having trouble getting permits in Hawaii. My university has a 17,000-acre ranch just outside of Van Horn, where Jeff Bezos is, and I can always get permission to do analogs on it if you let me know. The other thing is Texas has just allotted $350 million for the Texas Space Commission, which includes things like space STEM and space outreach. The commission's board is going to have their first meeting in about a month or so. So there's some opportunities here in Texas if you want to do analogs.
Well, Henk and Tom, maybe you can talk to see if there's some synergy there.
Offline.
Okay. All right. So anyway, let me recoup what I think are the major points that we've talked about and next steps. One, I would invite everybody to submit names of people who we think should be involved in this process. We have a list of about 35 names so far, and a lot more people that we think we should add. And Madhu, you're going to hopefully add another 40 names and so on.
Joe, let me say that when we add these names, it would be nice to have a cell that points to a particular publication or website that would attract our attention, Joe.
Right. I think we probably will need a website to be established. So that's a good point to have in the minutes.
Yeah, that's not a problem. We can put it on the server, on the metanet.ch server. That's where SRI has all of its web sites. I can get the hosting for free over there because it's all in our contract.
Okay.
So we can make how many websites we want. So we can make just make a new domain. Of course, it will be living in space, for instance, living in space, space, and that will be a cost, of course, because the .space domain has a certain cost, but not very much, some tens of euros per year. Okay, something like that. But the hosting will be free because it's inside the SRI contract. So,
but the other key thing,
I don't know if you got the gist of what I meant was that when Joe produces this list of people we want to include in our first gathering, we want to attach to each person or group a document that tells you how relevant they or the group is to what we are discussing. I think that'll be very helpful.
Well, of course, we can also fish in the 18 SDG coalition that are now 90 organizations. So we can invite all of these organizations to join.
Excellent. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure all of them, but we can certainly harvest from that group.
That's right.
Yeah.
But the main thing is we want people who are highly relevant to that. So the Moon Village Association, I would hope that Gary and Madhu and I can be in touch to see if we can see if they would be officially a part of the steering group for this group. Susan has left, but I hope Mars group could be a part of the steering committee.
Susan is still here.
Still here. Oh, okay. Okay,
we
great.
can invite Bob, of course, Bob Zabring for sure.
Yeah.
And Joe, we may also want to bring up ISU in some way. I don't know. You may have a better angle.
Right. Well, I think that definitely we should, and we want younger people involved. We want to have the ISU involved. And so we should definitely pursue that. Let's offline talk about that. But anyway, I think we need a steering committee of, let's say, in the order of 12 people and representing all of the sponsor groups involved to agree on things like, who we invite to speak for the the December 2nd Zoom event, and also work out some of the thoughts on just budgets and financial logistics and so on, and so on. But go ahead, Dinis.
Hello again. I had in mind, I've heard people during this meeting mentioning at least a couple of times movies. Okay. And I really think time is ripe for an interesting movie, some hybrid, something, maybe along the lines of I wonder if anyone at this meeting has met the people that made that movie, documentary, Orphans of Apollo.
Oh, yes.
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 Yeah.
You guys.
We all know. We all know
it?
Mike Potter. He's our neighbor.
Okay, so I would like to have an informal get together with people that have worked in these movies. As you may be aware, European Space Agency is becoming increasingly active in supporting movies. This last movie that takes place on ISS had a much greater European Space Agency participation. There was Proxima, and there's many people that make movies in Europe that have ideas that could explore the human element, and I think I was checking the last point is ISS reuse on the list of things to address. It's the last one, is ISS reuse. And I think the future of ISS, if done in a tasteful, balanced, sober documentary, if I can visualize a really, really, really thought-provoking documentary that could be created. And I have my own ideas. But there are people that have done that kind of stuff before, and I think they should get together and talk.
What we should try to do is set up a session with you, Madhu, myself, and Michael Potter. Michael Potter actually was a student of mine at the ISU, and we go way back. In fact, we did one business venture together as well. But anyway, he and his other colleague who started the venture to buy Mir, if you will, knows that story well. But anyway, let's sign off today. But can we maybe have another session a week from now, where we have input of the additional names and grow the list, and also see if we can get feedback from Gary Madhu about whether Moon Village Association can be part of the sponsor.
Joe, I've already typed it into the chat. As it stands right now, the Moon Village Association, the National Space Society, and the Space Development Foundation are willing to substantially engage and see what we can do to help make this happen. That doesn't guarantee the size of the check from any of those organizations. Okay, but what it does mean is that it is on the table, both as a board level action for MVA, board level action for the National Space Society, and for the Space Development Foundation.
Okay. And so, two things we want. One is the ability to use our name as a sponsor, and two, who might be the designated person. And it sounds like you.
Right now, I'm the designated person until there's a formal arrangement or MOU in those regards.
So
I think Gary is the right person.
Yeah,
Gary is the right person for MVA and also for NSS, might I add.
Right. So the point is, you can wear more than one hat if that's comfortable with the other organizations. If so.
Yeah, and until such time as there's a need for any others, my role for example, with NSS as the Director of Strategic Relationships is to identify these sorts of opportunities, frame them, and bring the decision package to the board.
Right.
My role with respect to MVA is really looking to do something real with respect to sustainable habitation and the architecture working group, and being supportive of the goals of engaging the broadest constituency possible in helping to figure out how to make things happen with respect to lunar settlement. From a Space Development Foundation standpoint, it's what can be done to foster cislunar development in earnest. How do you provide for both cooperation, collaboration, and allow for competition? Because this is not just a nation state, space agency fever dream. Okay, this has got to be something that involves, extending our economic sphere and doing things that make sense. And the issue of the ISS stuff has come up. One of the things the Space Development Foundation is doing is spinning up an ANSYS STK astrogator simulation of what it would take to actually deal with orbit raising. And that is, for those that aren't particularly aware, that is the state of the art in terms of orbital trajectory simulation. Nice little $300,000 license, okay, per year. Okay, so that's an example of one of the projects the Space Development Foundation is working in those regards. And we presented a paper in 2022 in Paris on addressing the issue of the evolution of ISS to a technology development, demonstration, and deployment lab. They're happy to make those links available as well. So, and there's a growing interest in that. And for those that wish to take on the issue of what can and cannot be done with space station, I've been involved in every phase in this epoch of the program, and I own the system level requirements for advanced automation and robotics for what's become ISS. And my team wrote the robotic systems integration standards from scratch, so I have more than a clue. Okay, and so it's an evolving discussion, and remember, you can do the same thing for many, many different reasons. And NASA is of multiple minds. And the curious irony, of course, is even the contract with respect to SpaceX, the same vehicle that can bring it down can also raise its orbit.
Yeah,
so
absolutely, absolutely. Moreover, on that NASA PDF, there were discussions about that the fundamental limiting element was structural integrity of the truss.
it isn't. It isn't.
It isn't, because
Turns
apparently
out
it is not being monitored. Okay.
It turns out the limited lifetime study that was done by NASA Johnson, headed up by Mike Reed, said there isn't any. Okay. Only limiting factor is political will and the fact that there are some emergencies that could happen, okay, that require drastic action. So you have to have an ability to deal with an emergency.
Discussion for another time, but can we agree to have another about an hour-long meeting a week from today at the same time?
Yes.
Okay. So I will work with Jim Crisafulli, and you will send a audio to Jim and myself, Adriano.
Sorry. Yes,
You will send.
I will send you the materials of this meeting just
Right.
after the end.
Right.
And I am writing some action items. We have to prepare. I think we have to prepare a press release for in a couple of days announcing the kickoff of this.
Well, let's wait, because we'd like to get the names of the organizations and even maybe representatives of a steering committee to go with a press release. So I think it's a little bit early days to do that, but you know, we certainly do want to start publicizing the December 2nd event.
Yes. However, okay, I will prepare a draft of a press release.
Okay. Yes.
Then we will see. I think
Right.
it will be worth to deliver it even as we are, because we have the initiative.
I think if we can use the names of the National Space Society and the Moon Village Association, and you know, it gives gravitas to what we're doing. So I think we should wait till we have that. Maybe we can have something even from Europe in support of this to make it a little bit more international in its scope and focus. So
Joe, just recognize that the support of
next week, let's discuss what we can go forward with in a press release, and you can draft something, Adriano, for us to consider.
Yes, I will make a draft. Then we decide what to do.
Excellent. Okay. Thanks all. I feel very excited by what we've discussed today, and the way we might be able to move forward. So.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Ad astra. Bye-bye.